guitars to any requests?
Can I play your guitar?
Through Wonderwall. I'm a good singer. Can I sing with you?
Oh, give us another. Come on, mate. One more song.
One more song. One more song. One more song. One more song. One more song. One more song. One more song. One more song. One more song. One more song. One more song. One more song. One more song. One more song. One more song. One more song.
Hello there.
And welcome to the One More Songcast. I'm Lee.
I'm Luke.
Right, so Luke, how the bloody hell are you?
All right, mate. All right. We'll first start with you. We'll have a little bit of a catch up. If you can hear some drums in the background, we've got some heavy metal drumming going on, aren't we?
Oh, heavy metal.
Heavy metal.
Yeah, I'm into it. Luke's not so into it.
Yeah, it's all right, but he seems quite a good drummer, to be fair. If you're watching.
Yeah, if you're watching or listening, you can be bothered. No, so yes, we were getting on to how we were. So you've asked me how
you are. How was your gigs? You had 4 gigs at the weekend.
4 gigs at the weekend. Yeah, so it started with an absolute bang this weekend. So Easter weekend, Good Friday. I had an originals gig for the first time in a little while.
Yeah.
So I played at a house party in Leyland, and I was supporting John McClure, who's the lead singer, for those of you that don't know, Reverend and the Makers.
Yeah.
They had a big hit in the sort of mid to late noughties with Heavyweight Champion of the World. The first album took off a bit, and they've kind of gone a little bit more into the background since then, but still got millions of plays on Spotify or whatever. But it was a brilliant gig. House parties are always great. I don't know if you've had the chance to do many of them.
Loads, yeah.
But
not with famous singers, but
no. I've done a couple. So like a few years ago, there was one where they sort of turned the garden into like a festival setting.
Right, yeah.
They put a display portaloo in there. It was funny. But everyone's always up for it in a house.
Yeah,
it's not like your
yeah.
private party where people can be sat there with the kids or whatever.
Yeah. I've played in some really obscure places in people's houses, like wedged in like the weirdest of corners in someone's kitchen or whatever.
So they basically cleared out the living room. So I'd set up sort of one speaker. It was like a small setup, really.
Yeah.
And then about 3 songs in, John turns up. And the first question he actually asked me was if he could use me tackle.
If he could use your tackle.
For anyone that doesn't know, that's my electrical equipment, my PA system. I didn't realise at this point it was going to be my guitar, but it was so he didn't have to set his stuff up. I suppose when you get that big, you've normally got people setting your gear up for you.
So you was his bitch.
Yeah, so I just said on the basis that I could get the Reverend to pluck me G-string. I could tell people that, and he luckily obliged.
Yeah.
He was a class guy, proper, just not a proper Yorkshire lad.
Yeah.
He was just been about the block and like just had a pretty successful music career, and he was just a really nice guy to talk to. Unfortunately, I didn't get to talk to him too much to get a lot of advice and get him to promote the podcast even, but I've sent him a message, so hopefully it gets to him soon enough and he'll respond to the messages and then take me on tour with him. But it started with a bang, and then I had a good one at Chorley Market on Saturday afternoon. Saturday night, I had an absolute belter at the Green Gate in Rochdale, which is like one of my stomping grounds. I absolutely love it. We love the term stomping ground on the podcast as well. And then Sunday, I was at Nets Bar on Gregson Lane, and it was another great one. Unfortunately, it was halfway through the Liverpool game, so I did slightly get annoyed when I was halfway through playing I'm a Believer and Salah misses a penalty, but we got a draw out of it. Unlucky not to win it in the end. Yeah. So, Luke, that's me done. Yeah. How was your weekend?
Yeah, well, this is why we've based the episode on today, isn't it? So I've been having a bit of a nightmare recently with getting ill a lot. So I had 2 gigs planned this weekend. Only ended up doing one of them. But this stems back to 3 weeks ago. So because we've not caught up for a while, have we? So
no.
3 weeks ago, I had 2 gigs. I had a gig on the Friday at the station in Preston. And that went well, but because I'd been ill all week with a cold and whatever else, I could start to feel my voice starting to go towards the end of the night. And I was like, I didn't really think too much of it. Got up the next morning, I was like, oh no, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this gig. But as the day went on, I kind of, felt better and better. I thought, I'll be all right. I turned up, and it's the only gig. So this was the Saturday night now. I did the Minstrel in Chorley, which is always a good venue for both of us. We always both enjoy going there. But disasters always seem to happen to me at the Minstrel. But thankfully the owners there are very understanding. So it's never happened before. I got 5 songs into the gig and my voice just went, nah, you're not doing this tonight. And it was just like, I sounded like really hoarse, like an old man. I couldn't reach any notes or anything. It was just completely and utterly gone. And I was just like, what the hell am I going to do here? And I just had to call it a day, throw the towel in after 5 songs. And everyone was like, no, it's fine, keep going. But it was getting ridiculous to the point. And then, weirdly, this has never happened to me before again, but 3 weeks later, I got ill again at the beginning of the week. And Friday's gig at the Talbot, so this Friday just gone, I just about made it through, but I knew 3 or 4 songs in that, because I've been ill, I was like, oof. I struggled my way through it, to be honest, really pushing getting through. So that gets to the question, vocal health. So even though this isn't necessarily particularly been my fault or anything like that, people get ill at the end of the day, don't they? But we're going to look at vocal health in general, how people are supposed to look after the voice, common misconceptions, little rituals we might have as well.
Yeah, I think it does sort of put into perspective what a singer actually does, because most people go, oh yeah, they breathe through their lungs and sing through the throat. Well, if you carry on a career like that, your career's not going to last very long, is it? There's a lot of misconceptions when it comes to singing. So we wanted to actually talk about, you see those memes, what my friends think I do, what my parents think I do, what I think I do, and what I actually do. I think this is one of those times now. So the first topic is what people think a singer is versus reality, what a singer actually is. So, Luke, I think we've discussed it. You said there's a few different parts to the voice. Put it quite nicely. There's a few different parts to singing and the voice itself that a lot of people don't know about. So would you care
I think
to
most
elaborate?
people who don't sing, or maybe are fairly inexperienced in singing, just think that you just open your mouth and just belt it out kind of thing. But there are many different regions to your voice, obviously, with your chest voice, your head voice, your middle voice, your mixed voice. And I suppose I've only sort of learned about that in recent years as well, really. But I think there's so many factors within your voice, really, and if you say lose a certain part of that voice through illness or through pushing it too hard, it all intertwines, really, and developing those different parts of that voice is ultimately what brings everything together and makes you the complete singer, I suppose. So it's not just a case of just opening your voice up. You've also got obviously breathing techniques and all them different kind of things, which again is just things people don't really consider, really.
No, I don't think they do. I think as well, there's a common misconception as well when people actually start singing that head voice and falsetto are the same thing as well. I've only recently just learned, and I'm 14 years into the journey here. I've only recently learned the difference between the two. Yeah. So there's a lot to learn about the voice before you actually even start singing. So obviously the basic is all the control and everything. The breathing is controlled through the diaphragm, which is a muscle in your stomach. That then channels up. The throat, you're only really using as a form to channel the sound or shape the sound.
Yeah.
So the throat, you're not actually doing awful lot with, but the vocal cords do still need strengthening. So it's about how you sort of do that, isn't it? It's a long episode just on that alone, isn't it?
I think people forget really that the voice is a muscle, isn't it? And it sounds so obvious, but like, what do you do with all your other muscles when you're using them to perform? Well, you train them, you rest them, you get the best recovery for that muscle. So say I always approach it as an athlete because that's the background I've come from.
Yeah.
But it's literally like you have to treat your voice as you would any other muscle that you're using to perform with, basically. So training that muscle up. Because I remember when I very first started, I could only get through one night of singing, and that's just because my voice was very like unconditioned, basically.
Yeah.
It hadn't had the training. It hadn't had that sort of, like you say, exposure to the adaptation of what it takes to build a muscle. So that was interesting at the start, realizing that I couldn't just turn up and sing night in, night out. I was going to have to put some sort of work in or over time strengthen that muscle. So that's been an interesting one as well, really.
Yeah, I think that's something for a lot of artists. I'd say particularly in originals music, because you get a lot of artists come through the ranks and they're just using it as a night out with their mates.
Yeah.
So they'll go to the venue, do the sound check, go away, have some food, maybe a couple of beers, come back to the venue, have a couple more beers, get on stage with a beer, and they're probably gigging once, twice a month.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, probably once, twice a month, you can do that for a period of time.
Yeah.
And then when these bands get big, there's particularly in the indie and metal scene, I'm going to say. So, like, there's a few singers who have lost their voice, have had to have throat operations because they're just leathering pints down the throat before they sing, or vodka or whiskey or whatever the alcohol might be. They might be doing that. And then literally they're just getting to a year or two in, and you can hear the struggle in their voice in the tour.
Yeah.
And then a lot of them do it, then experience vocal troubles. So that's when they have to get vocal coaching. I mean, it's like your typical karaoke singer. You can hear when someone's had 20 beers before they've gone on a karaoke.
Yeah.
It's not, you can't just get up and sing.
No,
Even we can't do it that drunk, can we?
No, the thing that you got to consider as well is like, you wouldn't just, well, you see it all the time, don't you? Say it comes to like, so I've got a few mates at the minute that are training for the Chorley 10K, right?
Yeah.
And they don't run all year. They won't mind me saying this. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, we've got 4 weeks now until the Chorley 10K. We're going to go out and smash all the training. So if you, and then obviously they get sore legs, they get sore knees and whatever else. It's the same thing with singing, innit? So if you're singing once a month, you'll probably get away with it. But then if you start to then make that your career, or even more so if you go on a tour where you're singing, that still mind boggles me when you see these tours and they're doing like 10 nights in a row and you think like, you've got to be conditioned for that.
Yeah.
Because you can't just turn up and do it. Like you'll have had to have had a lot of years behind you singing and being, it's almost like getting used to that. I find sometimes when I gig 3 nights in a row, like that sets me up then. I feel a little bit stronger as a result of it, maybe the following weeks. Whereas if I do 1 gig here and 1 gig there, sometimes that actually makes me a bit worse sometimes. It's like you become deconditioned, especially if you don't sing during the week and stuff as well. So the main thing is very much like a muscle, isn't it, really? Should we move on to some of the stuff, some of the, maybe the lotions and potions and diets and them kind of things that we think...
Just before we do that, Luke, the one that gets me even more is like your musical theatre ones, where like the top of the cast, they're doing these big numbers 7 nights a week. Yeah. They do 8 shows in a week, or 2 days they do a matinee. So sometimes it's 9 or 10 shows. And like they're doing it twice in a day. But like obviously they're not doing it an hour and a half straight singing like we are, but still, like, you know, you've got acting parts and you've got to show emotion. You've got to have that rasp in your voice at certain times. That always mind boggles me.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy when you think about it. Right, so we'll go on to that. We'll go on to a different part then. So we want to talk a little bit about, so the number one thing you say when you're losing your voice or you're struggling with your voice, and somebody that doesn't have much experience, they always say, oh, just have a bit of lemon and honey, or
a couple of paracetamol.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So we want to maybe talk about some of the, you know, you hear about the footballers and they put one shin pad on before the other, them kind of, what do you call them? Like old wives' tales and stuff. Yeah. So let's start with honey and lemon then. Is that something that you've ever tried? Do you think it works generally?
Well, to be honest, I use that one quite a bit when I'm ill, particularly. I discovered like these herbal remedies when I got like had problems with hay fever. I found out things like chamomile, peppermint, lemon and ginger tea all really help with that. So first of all, ginger is actually a natural antihistamine, which I wasn't aware of before that. If you can get locally sourced honey, it's quite hard to get hold of, but that generally helps. So I then transferred that to when I've got colds and stuff like that. But instead of just having one a day, I will like literally go on it for the whole week, and I'll still have me coffee in the morning. Like I love me coffee, but I do find myself having to tonk the water, steam the face, everything to get it out. And I do try everything, and generally it does work towards the end of the week.
What are you generally like with staying hydrated and drinking plenty of water and stuff? Because
pretty awful.
Obviously, pretty awful. Because obviously, being hydrated and hydrating your vocal cords is huge, really, isn't it?
Yeah, massively.
So you're not great with it. What's your general routine? With
No,
stuff like that?
I will have maybe 1 or 2 glasses of water a day, or sips of water throughout the day. But I used to when I was scaffolding, particularly, I used to carry like 1.5 litres with me every day. I used to have 1.5 litres, 2 litres, and then we got into lockdown, and I kind of just got out the routine because I wasn't exercising. I felt like I needed a gym to get going because I couldn't motivate myself. And funnily enough, I've still not got back into it. But yeah, I just go through. At the moment, I'm drinking way too much coffee, and then I go for a phase where I'm going to get this sorted. I literally change my whole diet for 6-7 months. So yeah, I should drink miles more water than what I actually do, but I think the most I do drink is like 1 or 2 glasses, or if I feel my throat starting to go, then I like tonking the water. I'm on the honey and lemon and everything.
This is a misconception though. So, you know, you can shove a few glasses of water down you before you're about to sing, but actually it can take 4 or 5 hours for the body to use that water and for you to actually become fully hydrated. So say your gig's at, I don't know, 7 o'clock, you need to be really drinking properly at like 12 o'clock. You know, and I'm quite good with that. I kind of have to be because of my training and stuff. But I think some people maybe don't realise that it takes a while for your body to actually hydrate from the time that you've drank, which sometimes is getting a quick fix of hydration can come from steaming as well, kind of, because it's that direct moisture from, if you don't know what steaming is, it's basically, they can look at the new little pots, they can look a bit like a bong or whatever, and you kind of, you put a hot kettle of water into this thing and you suck up the hot water through a straw, and it kind of is supposed to bring that hot air and hydrate your vocal cords and that kind of thing. It's like a direct hit almost.
They reckon it's good to, like, the first thing you drink as you get up, after you get up, is to have like a pint of water before you have anything else. They also reckon, like, even for like gut health and things like that, fruit's quite a good one to have before you eat anything else as well. So like, you have water and 20 minutes later have your fruit, and then you have a breakfast because the fruit will actually clear your system out, and the water just wakes you up quicker than anything else. So there's so many different ones, but the only one that's really worked for me is like lemon and ginger tea with honey in it.
I wouldn't say steaming massively works for me. I don't know if it's a bit psychological, or maybe I need to be doing it more than what I do. I'm not sure. So some of these things, so when I first started, because again, I was very obsessed with the diet and stuff, I was like, reading online and stuff, I shouldn't be drinking milk because it can create a mucus. You know, I shouldn't be doing this. But I found that you were just cutting out loads of foods and stuff, and really, was it having much of an effect on my voice? My technique wasn't developed at the time, and that was probably the thing that needed the most work. There may be 1% as if you're singing like in big arenas or whatever, but just don't know if...
Yeah, it's like a marginal gain, I suppose.
But
like,
I don't even know if half of them are true, really, sometimes.
I think, there is that bit with dairy. It is you're not meant to have it when you've got a cold as well, because dairy does generally produce mucus. There's things like spicy foods will dry your throat out, and they do really. You can tell when you...
I would say spicy foods, definitely. You can feel that tickle at the back of your throat, and is there anything that you would generally avoid before a gig?
Directly before a gig, I'd say spicy and greasy food, you can tell. But like, generally, I tend to eat whatever I want. Just mainly because I know, like, right, if I'm going to eat that, I just have to drink more water on that day. Because it's so easy to go and get a Mackey's or a pizza before a gig, particularly if you've got 2 gigs in one day and you're out. Like, you know, you go into a takeaway, aren't you? You're not really going to go to a health food place because you don't know where has them. You've got more access to fast food. So it is going to be a cheese butty and a meal deal, a Subway, a McDonald's, a Burger King, anything like that, you're going to do it.
The number one things I try, if I want my voice to be good, I make sure I'm hydrated, I drink plenty. I tend to avoid coffee maybe 6 or 7 hours before a gig, something like that. And I do tend to sometimes have a pint, but I don't have it before the gig. I'll have it like at half time.
Yeah.
Like if someone
that's my
offers you a
general
pint at
model.
I won't probably generally have a drink to calm your nerves, which maybe some people do, and that kind of thing. Because I just feel like that doesn't give you the best start, especially when you're not particularly warmed up and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
They're generally the only things I kind of do. Like sometimes I maybe have my tea a little bit close to the gig because, you know, say you have to set off at 5 or 6, you have to have your tea at then around then. Sometimes you can feel yourself a bit burpy, can't you, when you're singing and stuff. But other than that, there's nothing really that I would say is like, you know, this changed my singing, which kind of leads us off to the next point, really, which is about vocal training and vocal coaching. Surely that's the best thing you can do for your voice, rather than all these herbal remedies. Whilst they help a little bit, it can't substitute a good technique, can it?
It's the bread and butter.
Yeah.
It's the bread and butter, really. You've got to have control of your voice.
Yeah.
You know, if you know these little exercises to get your voice warmed up before a gig, then you're not really generally going to have a problem. Because if you have no technique and your voice starts struggling through a gig, you're pushing 50 to 100%.
Yeah.
Whereas if you've got good technique in the first place and you need the push to get you a certain note, you're probably not pushing much more than 20%.
Yeah.
It's if you've got good breathing, if you're breathing at the right times, if you're using the right amount of tension for a note, because it does require some tension. You can't eliminate tension completely.
No.
But if you know how to relax and control your voice in the first place, half these problems don't really affect you. Illness is going to be the big killer, though.
Yeah, it is.
There's some people that can't sing without
and it's
with
also,
any illness.
It's also, if that's your living as well, then you need to take the steps to live a general healthy life. Because if you're constantly getting ill, and like me at the minute, having to cancel gigs, losing money at the minute, then I have had to take a step back and assess things a little bit more. Am I eating enough fruit and veg? Am I doing this and that? And it doesn't sound very rock and roll, but it's at the end of the day, like, you know, you can eliminate the amount of times you get ill. That's going to generally help you, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a reason why these rock and roll lifestyles, as we said earlier, don't last very long.
No.
I mean, Kelly Jones, he went on another podcast called the High Performance Podcast, and he was talking about how he recovered from a throat operation. He had to relearn to talk. And they asked him, did you have any like pre-gig rituals? He said, well, yeah, 20 years ago, I used to sing a couple of Otis Redding songs, have a shot at vodka and get on stage.
Yeah.
Noel Gallagher's recently spoken about his why would he warm up? That's what the first song's for.
Yeah.
And, you know, Noel Gallagher's been doing it for a certain number of years. I can't believe he's had no vocal training whatsoever.
Yeah.
But
I think
it's
people
just,
pretend they do and they don't, but they do really sometimes.
Yeah, I think you can hear the improvement in even someone like Liam Gallagher's voice. He does plan ridiculous tour schedules, which is probably why. And the way he pushes his voice, the way he sings, he is going to blow out at some point. I mean, Lewis Capaldi's got one recently on TikTok. He's been on there saying, I swear I do this for a living, and his voice breaks up on one of his songs. So I think the way certain people sing, they are always going to lose the voice at some point. But it's about controlling when that push happens. And, you know, you've got to look after it completely. Otherwise, you're gonna burn out.
So we'll say why we advocate for, well, why I can't speak for you, but maybe why, if we think vocal training is worth it, if it isn't. I think for me, like, I've always had like a coach in my athletics and stuff like that. So I always like to, and like we say about the voice being a muscle and that kind of thing, it's good to be able to work on training that voice, training the muscle. And I feel like if you can get a structure from a good singing teacher, then you're able to sort of build that routine of, you know, doing the exercises, doing this and that, working on aspects of your song. Always get a singing teacher that works on the actual songs that you're going to do as well, and how you can make them more effortless. And I feel like it's them 1%ers from the actual vocal training that makes you better. So, for example, we'll work on certain parts of the song, how to make that a little bit more effortless.
Yeah.
But then also you've got to consider as well. So we were talking before, weren't we, about it's not just the singing. Sometimes when you're performing, you're playing a guitar, you may be kicking a drum, you're doing a looping pedal, and sometimes you can even with all them things going on, you can actually forget sometimes when to take the right breath at the right time because you've got so many other things that you're thinking about, especially when maybe the guitar or something else isn't your number one strong point. And I think that's what I struggle with at the singing lessons as well, is because I'm a runner and also because I'm not amazing at guitar, I was forgetting to breathe at certain points, and I got that build up of tension in my neck and in my stomach because I'm used to being quite tense as a general person in general day life with posture and training hard and that kind of thing. So, it's finding out some of your weaknesses, from somebody else and working directly on them things to make you an overall better performer.
No, I'm lucky. I've had 4 different singing teachers on and off in probably about 16 years now. Yeah. The first one was very musical theatre. It was more about teaching you how to breathe and how to get vocal stamina.
Yeah.
I then had another one who was just all about the channeling the sound in the right way, and getting that control. Another one that was a classical singer. It was all about breathing and the character and the mindset of it.
Yeah.
That one was really interesting because that one did teach me how to sing more softly.
Yeah. That could be another episode, the actual psychology behind singing as well, because there's a lot mental about it that we're not even going to have the chance to cover today in this mini episode.
I think, though, for me, everything I've got from a singing teacher is about control. If you can control the direction your voice is in a relaxed format, most of this stuff won't affect you. So you've got to have your own style and all that, but you've got to go and attack that note in the right way. And particularly for someone like me who's a smoker, and there are a lot of singers that smoke, I think it is really important to have that basic technique there. I mean, it does slow your progress smoking. I will say that. I'm not going to ever encourage it. But I've improved under Chris quite a lot in 6 weeks, whereas some of the stuff does take years to develop. I think without any level of training, you're not going to improve those things as fast.
No, I get
that. I would always advocate for it to get control and understand your voice better and what you're going to be good at.
Yeah,
when
definitely.
You get the training.
In the last minute, have we covered smoking in this one?
I just literally did.
Yeah, I was going to say, because we were talking about that before, weren't we? Generally, so you smoke a little bit, don't you?
Yeah. A lot.
Yeah. Do you think that affects your voice? Just because I don't smoke, I've never have smoked. I find it quite interesting in singers that do smoke. Does it affect you, and how does it affect you, very briefly?
Right. Well, obviously, it's doing you no good on the inside. It definitely dries your throat out.
Yeah.
It definitely adds a little bit more raspiness to your voice, which in certain characteristic things can sound good.
Yeah.
But could Rod Stewart singing any other way now? Other than having that rasp. Yeah. I wouldn't want that 24/7 on my voice. Yeah, still do it. But I think it does slow your progress. Right. There's no two ways about it. I've had stints where I've given up smoking for a time and just been able to reach notes with ease on certain songs, bear in mind, because every song is different. It's important to know that. I've been able to reach notes performing the same technique and just felt a million times more relaxed because I've got more energy. And it's not like I don't want to quit, but I think that's the thing. As long as you're doing things to counteract it, it won't majorly affect it in the short term, but over time it is going to kill your voice.
Yeah, I think in the long run. I think that generally.
Yeah.
Think of your voice as if it's a muscle and as if you're some sort of athlete, and then I feel like you'd be getting the right mindset. Really.
Yeah, I think, again, I love coffee.
Yeah.
But if I go having 4, 5, 6 coffees a day before I drank any water, which sometimes, don't get me wrong, I do, particularly when I'm hungover, I think you're running a risk. You're running a risk of just completely dehydrating yourself and not being able to sing. So, as long as you're doing things to counteract it, like drinking more water and like practicing your exercises, your voice will sort of counteract itself, and that will sort of, you'll be able to override it, but it will slow your progress.
Hello there. Thank you for listening to our new introduction. So, that was written by our friend and bandmate, my bandmate.
Not my bad, mate.
From Before the Impact, Liam Tamber. Tamber is a great guitarist and pretty good producer, and it turns out he's very good at writing a jingle, isn't that right, Luke?
Yeah, he's also responsible for the number one hit, Pointless Comment of the Week.
Which was number one in 2 bedrooms, mine and his.
Yeah. And we share bedrooms, so...
Yeah. So how we got 2, I don't know. I think we just built a fort halfway through.
A slide.
Yeah, so...
A lubricated one.
You know, sometimes you like to rub your belly against a wall, don't you?
Yeah.
And fall down. But a smooth landing. Anyway, we've gone off on a tangent.
A tamberment.
We're just going to thank Liam Tamber
Hiya,
for his
Liam.
work. Back to the episode before this gets worse. See ya.
Hello, thank you very much for making it this far into the episode. We've got a new section at the end of our podcast where we're going to be showcasing unsigned music. So that might be unsigned music from a solo musician, or it might be as a band or a duo. We want to give them the chance to hear their music being played on at the end of our podcast. And we've been really impressed with some of the songs that have been sent in so far. But we're going to start off, the first song that we want to play at the end of our first time of doing this is a song from our very own Lee Edgerton. So you've got a new song that's coming out at the end of April. First of all, what's it called and what's it about?
Yeah, it's called Live for the Weekend. It comes out on the 21st of April. And it's really just about having a good time with your mates at a weekend after a hard week at work. So it was kind of inspired really by, I started having a few summer Sunday sessions with my mates when things started to open out after lockdown. And I realised how much I enjoyed Sunday drinking. Unfortunately, one particular Monday, it took its toll on my morning performance. And the boss wasn't too happy. He let his feelings know to the team. And I thought, well, my numbers are good. I can do what I want. Obviously, I was wrong because that wasn't sustainable over a longer period of time, especially when you get to 30 and beyond. But I think it is just about, you know what, I do work hard to enjoy, earn this money. So I'm actually going to enjoy it. And it'll be one of those that's made for the beer garden, that's made for your summer barbecues with your mates, having a few beers and enjoying yourself.
Cool. Sounds good to me. Should we play it?
I think we should. Yep, you can find my channel at Defined By on Spotify, Apple Music. And yeah, hope you all enjoy it. That's all I've got to say.
Here's Live for the Weekend.
My head's a little sore today, coming from a late 1:03 a.m. The bus is on our toes again, probably had a row at home this weekend. But I'm getting far too old for this, recovering is twice as long and thick. We had a belter in the midst of a sunny Sunday I just couldn't miss. So while I graft to earn a wage, the top dogs take the lion's share of every penny made today. So every chance I get, I'll enjoy my time and I don't care what anybody says on Monday. It's my life and I'll live it my own way. It's a lovely sunny afternoon. So while I graft to earn a wage, the top dogs take the lion's share of every penny made today. So every chance I get, I'll enjoy my time, and I don't care what anybody says on Monday, 'cause it's my life and I'll live it my own way. What a life it is, but we don't reap any benefits, so why should I give a shit about this? I've given rich men all my time, so they don't decide what to do with mine, so I'll have another rap style if you don't mind. So from 4 o'clock today, no more targets, no telly sales, I'm off to see my mates drowning in. No early Saturday, and so